Alex, very nice to see you here. Thank you for coming.
Hello, Joseph. Thank you for the invite.
And I mean, you and I, we've been interacting for a while now. You're one of the most interesting producers for me, of the up-and-coming producers. I really appreciate your music and how you treat your sound. And you recently also did a masterclass for HoS sound on production. Can you walk us through what are the main concepts and things that you think are very important for someone who's making techno or music in general?
Thank you for your words. About your question, I think it's very important to understand the foundation of the style. Like making music, you can have a good philosophy that will come with it. It can be very fun, can be very frustrating. It's a long journey that is definitely worth taking. And if we specialize in techno, I think it's important to understand what are the rules, where it comes from, the Belleville 3, Kraftwerk, in terms of rhythms, in terms of emotions, in terms of what makes it techno, what makes it so special, different from the other genres. And then you just walk your way around it and you try to replicate what you like from other artists, from other productions. And slowly but surely, it's very important that you make it your own. So you will read that in a lot of books about techno music production. Learn the rules, break the rules. And the fun part, or maybe not so fun for people, is that it never stops. It's always about doing that kind of ping pong between learning concepts, trying them on, and then make them your own. And it's that way that you can just take decision and be authentic in your music, I think.
Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, because the masterclass you did for HoS sound, there is a part which is about textures, but also main elements. When you think about this, in that respect, what are the rules that you have learned and used, and how did you break them for your music?
I think it's very important to have some space to experiment. And at a different timing, it's also very important to have some discipline. So discipline will not be about always doing the same thing, but it will be about making time to do the thing, because not every music sessions are supposed to be meaningful and will give results. Like you shouldn't judge yourself on one day of music production, even 1 week, just give it time, because it can be such a complex process. And it's really involving a lot of different roles. So as a beginner, I think it's very important to be very methodic. So you would start, for example, from the low frequencies until the highs, and then try to break it down to what is the most important part in a techno music production in terms of why it's gonna, like, what's gonna make it work on a dance floor, what's gonna make it interesting, and also what's gonna make it convenient to be used by DJs. Because you can make music purely for the listening experience on your headphones. It can be a very private experience. But what we do, techno music, is also it's meant to be shared. That's why it's so important to master the low ends and to understand how it's going to translate on big speakers in the club.
Yes, and I think you nail it, like with your music. And I've listened and played a lot of your releases. I think you have a very good balance of creating something that is quite unique to you, and that's where I can see your musical voice. And at the same time, you nail the low end, and also the mid frequencies is quite defined, and it works really well when you mix it as a DJ. And in your experience, what are the one or two things that helped you in this process of making sure that this is a fit for a club track, so that when a DJ gets the demo or they buy the music, they are really happy to play it because it really works on the dance floor?
Very good point. I would say, you just said it, like having very solid low ends are super important. And I can tell you a bit more about my journey, because I am mostly, I am self-taught. I only took like 6 hours of classes like a few years ago. And it was about the low ends, to understand how it works. It was with Arcan, and it helped me tremendously on a very specific point, because I feel like when you, as a human being, you're not really meant to hear some frequencies. So like, for example, as babies, we are very tuned to be reacting to voices. And that we'll see it around like 2K until 4K, roughly. But then when it comes to understanding what's happening in the 150 hertz, 50 hertz, low end, what's going to be physical, it's very difficult to grab the concept. So definitely getting some class helped. I've also watched a lot of tutorials. And then it was also important for me to have the listening experience on a pair of headphones, but also on speakers. And then being lucky enough to hear the music on sound system. So if you're a DJ and you have the opportunity to play music, it's important that you test your track like on a dance floor. But you can also get it right without doing that, because, for example, when you know what you're supposed to hear and how it's going to sound, the headphone can be very precise. So what you said also is super important, because we talk a lot about the low ends, but the low mids are critical to make the track stand out, to make it feel like every part of the track are glued together, to give it like more warmth around like the 500 hertz. And it will involve for me a lot of like layering, because usually what I do is having a kick and a sub, and that will give me the physicality that I'm looking for to give to people on the dance floor. And then I'm gonna layer some usually most of the time percussions, or like having like a bass loop, or just synthesizing a bass that I will filter out. I will just keep the mid. I can also sculpt it and give it some color with saturation, with overdrive, with a lot of tools. But it's about creating those sound in that part of the spectrum.
Hello, and thanks so much for watching or listening to this podcast with Almost Sound. I'm Joseph, and this is the Almost Sound Studio. Just a quick interruption to tell you that if you're a producer and you're looking to further your skills or get inspiration from some of the most interesting artists in the world, you can head over to almostsound.co.uk and get access to masterclasses and courses from some of the most interesting producers out there. Whether you're a beginner just starting off, or an intermediate level producer who's released music and is playing gigs, or even an advanced producer who's looking for more inspiration and understanding how their favorite producers make music, we do have a range of masterclasses that cover pretty much anything from sound design, sculpting a low end, creating engaging melodies, all the way down to mixing and mastering and arrangement. Whenever you want, head over to almostsound.co.uk and select the masterclass and course for you. See you on the other side. In the range, you said layering. So for clarity, this is not kick layering, multiple kicks to make one kick. It's more the way you use elements in a certain range. So kick, belly bass, sometimes bass line, but very often percussions.
Yes.
Layers of different elements, not of the same, let's say, the same class of elements together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you can find some very creative way of producing in my techniques, in Samas techniques, in a lot of like upcoming new producers. Because it's not so much about and that's what's gonna make it interesting. Because you can find I've even seen a tutorial of someone like making like a very solid groove bass line with bird sound sampled, So it's all about understanding what you can do when you manipulate the sample and where it's supposed to sit in the frequencies, and also just trusting your guts. And if it conveys emotions, if it makes you want to dance, if you care about it, you're just on the right direction. And so you can do a lot of layerings to have a very interesting kick, but it's also not limiting yourself to one sound. And the more you're gonna make it specific and not so simple, the more it's gonna stand out. And also, just to talk about the thing as a whole, it's also very important to understand that you need to clean your frequencies. Because we can have like a low tom, a perk that is more like mid-high. We can glue them together, but then you just need to know, okay, I have this element. What is spot, like what is the job that is making for me that makes sense, because you can do a lot of layering, but if you keep everything, if you don't remove frequencies, it ends up being muddy and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so cleaning, for clarity, is essentially removing frequencies that you don't need because there is another element that is taking space in that frequency. The classic would be drums doing high pass over certain frequencies so that it doesn't conflict with the bass and the kick, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of the way you're thinking about your core elements, because your tracks have very usually like they're quite simple in a way of like there's not so many elements, but you always have a stab or some kind of sound that they place with the groove of drums and toms, right? How do you have some kind of formula that you use? For example, when you sit in the studio, do you think, okay, now I need to make an element that creates tension and another one that releases tension, or I have an element of question, another one that answers, or it really depends on where you're at with your mind and your emotions?
I think it would be more of the second options, which makes my sound stand out also, because I can be very organized and very chaotic sometimes at the same time. And it all depends on my mood and what I'm feeling at the moment when I'm sitting in front of my laptop just to produce some music. Sometimes I will go to VSTs, sometimes I will synthesize sounds, sometimes I will just use a lot of sample and manipulate them. And it's mostly about what I'm going to find. At some point, some elements going to stand out. I remember one of your masterclass from Rødhåd that was actually showing in his studio that he's not starting with the drums. He starts with the main element, the things that will make it, the things that will make his track special. The bass line, but more like in the mids or the thinns. And I used to be very methodic, working from the bottoms up, because in that way, when you're more like a beginner, intermediate level, it will help you to know what's next. And then you can like, okay, I need this kind of frequencies. Now it's different. No, maybe that's also why some of my tracks are efficient and they connect with people. It's because I will, kind of like in pop music, I can go for like chopped voice, and because the pattern is so pleasing, I will focus more on that. It's very often times that I will start production just jamming with the live sessions, adding a lot of elements, and the next session is going to be much more about what do I keep now? What makes sense for this piece of music? And then I will start soloing the kick and then go through all my different channels. And if I don't like it, I will remove it. And that takes...
The single channel,
Yeah. And that took a lot of time to be able to let it go, to say, but this sound, I spent maybe 3 hours trying a lot of sound design, adding a lot of effect on the channel. And I'm like, yeah, it's my baby. But at the end, I think you want to serve the greater purpose, which is like, it's not supposed to be one element. It's supposed to be a lot of elements working together and making a story. So you can do it a lot of different ways. Now I'm allowing myself to be more creative, and the session that's going to be about what is good from the jamming when I was like acting like a child, being super creative, free, just doing my thing. And then the next time it's more like I'm going to act more like as a scientist. I think it was Tyler, the creator, that said that in an interview. And I love that because there's a time to play and there's a time to build and to say, okay, this is about this, not this. And at the end, it's good. Although because the more you are experienced with your music, the more you will instinctively know what is lacking, what could be added then. Like, okay, maybe it's not percussive enough. I want some elements that are like sharp. And then it's about adding new elements or just sculpting the elements you already have with the transient, with the ADSR, with that kind of stuff.
Yes, and I love Tyler, the creator too, and I didn't connect this sentence to him, but I love the concept of, you have a moment where you're super creative, which is usually your starting point, and then do you intentionally take a break between your creative kid, playful moment and the scientist moment? Do you want to have space in between, right?
the goal would be to have it, but again, like I said, I'm sometimes very chaotic, and there's like the theory and real life, which means normally I think that's what you're supposed to do to be like super efficient, but sometimes you're touched by the divine and you make a track in 2 hours. Sometimes a track you have a very good feeling about it, but it can take 2 years to be done, and even at the end it's like not doing a lot. And I want to shortly come back to what you've said before when you said, do I have a formula? Am I reaching out for like stabs, chords, pads and stuff? I think it's very like it means a lot to me to say that although the way I think my sound is original is I'm not trying to do something that is working at the moment. Like for example, today we're in Berlin. We sometimes go to Berghain. We see what is working in that mental hypnotic underground music. You have a lot of like dissonant pad. You have a lot of formulas in terms of arrangement. I'm kind of staying away from that in the sense of sometimes I will do it if it comes handy, if the inspiration just took me to that. But I'm not trying to always do what the people are expecting from the dance floor. But I have nothing against that. I'm seeing producers that I deeply respect and that I'm enjoying a lot as a DJ. They will do kind of like very often the same thing. You hear it in the sound, but although it's because they made their sound very mature and it's like they refined it for like 10 years and they know they're about that now. Like you've seen some tracks from Red Rooms, for example, involve Uval, both producers that I love and that are very inspiring to me. And so sometimes it's also very important that I listen to a lot of techno. I dig a lot. And then if I hear something cool, I'm like, oh, what about trying to do that? And at the end, I'm never quite doing exactly the same because it always ends up being messy and going to different ways. So sometimes in my techno, you can find some very catchy stuff. Sometimes it's very atonal. It's never plain, which I think it's important because we do techno. So we want to be accepted in the community. We want our tracks to be played in certain places. It means a lot. We want the praise from our hero of our models, but we should push the boundaries of the sound. We should not rest. We should not follow trends. If your sound fits in the current trends, that's perfectly fine. As long as it's you, it's authentic. It's not so much about stopping you to do something, but just maybe not be so comfortable in the box, even if you're like super successful and people love that. I'm seeing Namaste, for example, that is like super successful. And one track on one of his EP on Mutual Rhythm was very breaky, very hybrid, very raw. And I was like, man, that I long to keep doing that, even if my projects get bigger, even if my life changes because of music. But never forget why you started that and how it can be like super fun also. Because I think people, like maybe we don't give enough credit to the audience, to the people that come to the dancers. They will feel that. They will not say, oh, it's because there's a star. It's actually crazy. Like when you practice music so much and you think everything is so obvious to you and everybody sees that, no, not so much. And I think you also do it more for the people that will just enjoy it and experience it. And in all those people, you have to be doing the same. You have to be also enjoying your stuff.
For sure. And I think what I've realized is that I think if you, let's say, the riskiest thing is that you become successful, meaning you get a lot of attention and fame and praise very soon in your producer or artist career. And then let's say your first album, first release is like a massive commercial success. Everybody loves it. And then you start, a lot of artists to talk about that publicly in interviews. They say, okay, and then I was afraid of then doing something different because then I think people will not appreciate me and like me. And I think it's a beautiful mindset and way of thinking about it, which is what you said. Remember why you started. and understand how you can continue to do something that it's from inside of you, and of course is respectful of the audience. You want to try to find a match at some point, but it really has to come from you. You need to figure out a way to get that out because it's something you feel. And why did you start making music?
Okay, so we go back to that road. Actually, I started doing music very late. When I've always been moved up by music. I was listening to not dance music, not electronic music when I was younger. But because I'm not coming from like a family that prioritize, that give space to creative expression, to music, and because I had other center of interest, and also because the gap between incredible music and what you can do when you've never done it is so huge. From the beginning, I was like, okay, it's not for me. I'm like, I will enjoy it. It's incredible, but I'm good being a spectator. I'm good being a consumer, a listener. I'm just taking that. And then we fast forward to like the time after my studies. I took some time to travel the world. I've been to New Zealand. I've been to Australia. I've been to Asia. I've done a lot of stuff before coming back to France and settling down and starting my career and stuff. And one experience was incredible. It was in Melbourne. I was doing some couch surfing at the time. So I was sleeping at strangers' place on their couch. And the deal was just to be friends with them and to discover them and just to exchange, you know. I think traveling shaped me as a human person, as a human being, and although improved me on like a lot of aspects. And I had different type of experience. Sometimes it was very, sometimes it was almost bad and not interacting in the best way of ways with people. But one time it was amazing. And to this day, I'm still in touch with that friend that I consider as a brother. And it's very funny because everything on paper, everything made us different. Is from Muslim confession. He had like 10 years more than me. He had like a TD job. He was like super clean. But we connected instantly. And because I felt the pressure to give people a good time and to share as much as I could, I was really at the big momentum when I was about enjoying dance music and techno was becoming like my thing, but still as a consumer. And this person, I spent like 10 days at his place and we went to the restaurant, we talked about everything. And he found that I was so excited by music and explaining even what was drum and bass, what was psytrance, what's a music festival, what's this and that, and what makes techno so nice and stuff, that before the last day, before going to Asia and then back to France, he booked me a surprise crash course in DJing.
So this was long before you were producing? You tried with music, but you were not producing yet. You were not even DJing.
Yes, I never tried to make music at the time, and I never tried to mix anything. And the experience was nice, but not life-changing, but it was more like the principle of, okay, this person is seeing something in me that is worth investigating and celebrating. Mm-hmm. And then I went back to France and I was like, okay, maybe it's this thing, because I trust that person and because I discovered stuff inside me. I was like, maybe it's worth being shitty at first as long as I like it. And so I started DJing for a year. I bought a cheap controller. And then it went fast. It went fast to the point of I downloaded Ableton after 1 year because I was like, must have as well try to make my own music, you know, that I don't find outside. And then gradually, so it was still a hobby, but the shift was crazy for me. And then at some point, it became so important that I was not very fulfilled in my traditional career, and I wanted to give music more space because I slowly realized that it's never too late to start anything, but when you have the goal to be able to express yourself to the fullest, to achieve what you want to achieve, it's important to give yourself the resources to achieve that. So I slowly, it was also during COVID. So I think planets aligned and I had more and more time to prioritize my hobby. And then I was less and less fulfilled with my old job. And I just decided to take some time off to only do music. At the time, it wasn't so much about making it as an artist and touring and making money with that. It was more like, okay, the thing is serious in the sense of I need to be able to convey my emotions into the music. And I would see my progress, but when you have access to internet and you dig the music and you find music like coming from Clockworks, SK11, when you find something that is really making you going on a journey, you want to, I think you can be aware that, okay, if we need to go that way, we're gonna have to make the time to practice a lot.
And that is the why you started actually making music, because you wanted to convey emotions and you wanted to create something that for you was a gap in what you wanted to. So you felt like there could be different music made to be listened, to be played, and then you wanted to convey your emotions in music, and hence why you really started seriously focusing on music. You left your full-time job or previous job, and then you went into production. That's why connecting to what you said before, remembering why you started is very important, because like it's this thing of expressing what you have inside that makes you make music.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I don't know about people that would have been part of the techno community since forever, since their 10 years. They must have a very different experience. For me, I came like riding a parachute, it was like Jack. But then the starting point, indeed, you mentioned it, it was creating beautiful things, creating moving things, creating even like the dance characteristic of what we do. I found it on the way. I found making music with Ableton was also very soothing in a lot of ways, because I've always been scared that I didn't have any musical theory, that I didn't know a lot of stuff. And then the computer and the will to learn online and to just spend the time allowed me to kind of like make up for that time that I didn't practice before. It also shaped what makes me unique, as every human being is unique. It helped me, I was like an outsider in that sense. I didn't started since a long time, and it was also very condensed, because it's been like a very intense couple of years doing that.
Yes. Yeah, I think I received one of your demos, promos actually, early 2024. Is that possible? Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have been February, March 2024, because I remember I was traveling at that time and I received these promos, and like I'm no one and I receive a lot of promos, and sometimes you hear the music and it's just like, I don't know why people sent it to you, because it's completely different. And then I listened to your tracks, I was like, fuck, this is really good music. And then I wrote you, and then we started getting in touch, and you sent me more music, and I really enjoyed the way your tracks sound. And specifically, I was getting much more into the hypnotic techno. It was something that was calling me, and I felt like your tracks, there was Opalescent, there was a few other tracks that I think at that point, there was one in particular that you changed the name when you released it. I don't know if you remember, but anyways, I started playing a lot of your tracks, and then we started getting in touch, and you told me that it was kind of the start of your journey. And for me, it was crazy. So before that, there was no different project. That was the starting point for you in producing and releasing music. Yeah. And one of the questions that someone asked you online was also, what was one of the most interesting feedbacks or appreciation that you got so far about your music?
Again, thank you for your words. I really appreciate that, because music is about connecting, and that's how it started more professionally, I would say, because I'm officially releasing music since just a year and a half, almost 2 years now. And I've released a lot also because I was in my space making it. And so what we see today is just a result of a lot of time practicing and doing. So there was a time I was doing music for myself and I wasn't believing in it. And I started to have very small gigs in France. And at some point I came around someone that I really appreciate, that I was seeing as like a very big names from the scene. And it's very funny because a lot of things are coming full circle. So this person was Il Nurse, which is pretty,
of course, know him really well,
famous worldwide, and especially in France. And this guy was the first one to say, yeah, sure, send your demos. And then instantly, I think it was 1 or 2 days after the gig, we had same lineup. He said, man, actually, it's like amazing. It's great. And I wasn't really believing in it, because I was like, my nose on my back. I was just, because when you make something that makes you vulnerable, again, it's all about emotions. You can be very scared to share it because maybe you're not ready to get the feedbacks. You just want people to enjoy it. Maybe you don't believe in yourself. And so that's how it started. Thanks to him, I started to send some unreleased, a bunch of unreleased that was sitting on the side to the persons that I found to be interesting in the scene, from like as a producers, as DJs. I remember sending music to Inakas, to Justin Perry, to a lot of people that I was enjoying as a listener. And then a slice was a blessing. So the thing made by Devious One to try to connect DJs and producers, because it gave me the ability to see who was playing my music and in which places. And then
cool.
When you're like so young in the making as a producer, and you see that people play your stuff in Berghain, in Tresor, in Bassiani, and big names and a lot of people, you're like, they surely can't do that just to please me and to be polite. Like it must be something. And it's actually what connected me to the scene. Even long before falling in love with Berlin, it was internet and talking with people from the profession, from the craft. And that was lovely. Like even the first time we connected, it's all about the music, there's no game, there's no industry, just like you love what I do, you give it to people. It's just wonderful. So yeah, that was although like a big turning point.
It was a big turning point because I think also it gave you confidence, and in a way made you understand that your music is appreciated. That's the ultimate proof. Like if a DJ is playing your music in a club, and especially if it's an important gig, it means that they really like it. They don't do it for other reasons.
Exactly. And sorry, I didn't answer the previous questions, but like the biggest moment from that, actually, so a slice, every notification from a slice felt crazy. And when you see your tracks associated to those establishments, you don't need much more than that. And then, of course, because there was like a lot of project lined up, and actually what happened was a year and a half ago, I was in the process of sharing a lot of unreleased music, and I never even thought about releasing. I was not knowledgeable about the labels, just what I liked, I was like as a someone that want to mix music, but that was it. And a lot of people spontaneously asked me to release, and then I was fulfilling my promises, said yes. And then at the end of this year, I'm coming out of that. I'm going to be done with my promises and everything will be out.
When you say promises, you're, let's say, committing your tracks to a label.
Yes, exactly that. And so because there was like a lot of EPs lined up and sometimes even overlapping, I was able to read a lot of feedbacks. And I think, when you read it was mostly the people that I would appreciate the most as producers. Like when you read some feedbacks from Devious One, from Ben Club, from Polygonia, from Schlar, from I don't know. And what I loved the most was, even if all those incredible artists would be in different subgenres, because when you're in it, it's not the same crowds, not the same audiences, but they will all somehow like my stuff and will implement it in their journey. And it was just amazing. And then when you have like because some artists, they will test some music, but then I think the most incredible part was Ben Clock playing Opalescent over and over and over, and seeing it on videos on YouTube, and having your friends going to Berghain and sending you the videos, the black videos, just of the crunchy sound and the screaming of the crowd and just texting you, hey, it's your track again. It's a very special moment.
Yes.
And it's funny because it used to be the most important part, and now it's always nice. But when you receive messages from strangers, not people from the scene, just taking the time to give you appreciation for your sound and to use specific words to say how it moves them and how they like it, it's maybe even more special now. I came from the bottom to trying to get the respect and being established from the big names, from the people making the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm not really craving that anymore. I will take it for sure. But I'm a bit more confident. I'm staying humble because for me, my sound is not finished and I still have a lot of work to do and I still want to improve. But I find it much more easier nowadays to connect with strangers, like you would go to a club and dance with someone just for a night, and you take that spontaneity and because sometimes when you become bigger, when you're more established, for me, it's my experience, you find some norms, you find some rules, hidden rules, and some like exchanges between people can be a bit codified.
Tell me more. So, and this could be related to the hardest or most crazy truth that you've learned about the music industry. So you're like, let's say, quote unquote, new to the scene. Last 2 years, you entered this scene, also partially visiting, being in Berlin more often from France, like getting closer to the techno scene, which is, Berlin has a lot of the techno scene. What has been one of these truths that you uncovered that it is hard to accept or a bit off-putting?
Even if I wasn't part of it before, I can sense experience is changing. I think you can still find the same magic that you had in the 90s. Some crowd, some dance floor, some sets. It's pure bliss, it's magical, it's crazy. And I will keep doing that and I will keep enjoying it because of that. And life is not perfect, so it's pretty normal that you can find this incredible moments in every party, every time. Life is ups and downs. Maybe it has to go with the consumption. I'm always wondering nowadays if you would listen to Black Russian by Devious One, would it have the same impact that it had before? I don't think so, because now we have more releases than ever. We have social medias, we have DJs that received a ton of promos, as you said, and it's more about getting that fresh sound every time. And I feel like we spend a lot of time in the studio, we make some music, and it's not that it's not appreciated, it's just that it's not holding the same meaning that it used to. And I found that in Berlin, but it also schooled me in so many ways. I'm coming from France. We don't have the same knowledge about the music, and everything that I'm experiencing here, I would barely find it in Paris. Things are changing now because we have Essin, we have Future, but we still have a long way to go, because it's about, like, the restaurant is serving the right kind of food, for sure.
Yeah. But
still people maybe are not looking for that, or they don't really know how to eat it. In Berlin, it's so full of everything. So I'm always asking myself, what is the right pace of consumption? But although the right pace in everything, in spending times in making music, because what I did, the dedication, I'm very proud of it. I think everybody can make incredible music and maybe can do anything, but is everybody willing to spend the time and to sacrifice? Because I think creativity, like artistry, is although about sacrificing your free time, your emotions. Sometimes it can be very cathartic, sometimes it can be very painful. And like you said, when you are like more established, I'm not different than everyone else. You can feel the pressure, because it's very easy for me to say right now, do it for you, remember why you started in the first place. But of course, if like the scene is expecting you to perform a certain way, your fans are expecting some stuff, I think it's a fight you have to fight every day. You have to reassess everything.
Yes, you mentioned something that I wanted to ask more of, is you're not craving the outside feedback. You still enjoy it and appreciate it, and you're grateful for that, but you're not craving that anymore. What drives you at the moment when you look about your life in general and music in particular?
I'm very driven by curiosity, and even if I achieved some stuff, and I'm still trying to understand a lot of things. Like I'm still studying the sound of a lot of my peers. I'm trying to learn more about subgenres, because you can find more abstract techno, you can find techno with vocal, you can find some tribalish stuff, you can find some stuff more sound design oriented. And I don't want to limit myself, but I still want to do it properly, in the sense of what's the functionality of that on a dance floor. Right now I'm super into bettering myself as a DJ. I made huge progress. I'm enjoying myself as a DJ. I think I'm worth it now, although I had my doubts before, but recently I had a gig in France. It was in Glazart, and I played 4 hours, and I was like super happy about that. It was just the opening of the after party until the morning.
Good moment.
Yeah. And I would wake up at like 2, 3 a.m. a bit grumpy, like, okay, let's go into the zone and let's play 4 hours with people that are just on their way to party more, you know. So the energy is a bit, you have to blend with that. But I was very happy because I would be taking a lot of risk. I would adapt to the mood on the dance floor, the movement from people, trying to challenge them. And I realized, although it's kind of like when you go to the gym and you do it consistently, but you don't realize you're putting muscles on you, or you're just getting more toned, because you see yourself every day, you know? And so when I was at that gig, having spent more and more time in Berlin and connecting more like on the Georgian scene and German scene, like Berlin scene more, because my son just connected there, I realized I was bringing a very nice experience in Paris. Again, a lot of people can do that, but the work helped me to stop asking my legitimacy to do that. It was coming with pure intention. I've made the work, so I knew what I liked and what would work and what was the experience I wanted to give in terms of physicality, in terms of storytelling, adapting. And I think that's what is driving me the most, is keeping just improving, really, and trying to, because that's why music is so interesting. It never ends. You can better your productions. You can do that as a DJ. It's also about managing humans' emotions, because I think a lot of people would see that as fun and giggles and just having like a star lifestyle. But sometimes you play in the middle of the night, sometimes you play at certain locations, sometimes you travel and you go to a different country and you're ready, but it's not happening. And I think we tend also to forget that it's still a human experience and it's not something you can just activate. You have to learn how to get ready and to give yourself everything, so people will have a good time and you will be honest in the craft that you're giving. Yeah.
And it's, for sure. And I think it's since, by the way, because I remember when you played the Else, like more than a year ago, you were playing one of your first, I think it was one of the first sets, like in a nice night, you were telling me that you were not sure whether you would enjoy it for the right time, if I remember correctly. It seems like also your own experience of playing is changing, and my assumption would also be that you're going less into your head. You're going to, okay, now I'm back to the music, I'm doing something that I enjoy and play music that I like to people that are dancing, and you're probably thinking less. Does that reflect your experience? You're more into the experience, you're overthinking less, let's say. Let's put it this way.
In part, yes, but I think it was Renate the gig.
Renato, yeah.
Yeah. And it's more like, because I got life experience, you can be in your room and you can think about what people will want. But again, that's why Berlin was so important to me, because when you start to listen to 4-hour sets on a regular basis and you go to clubs that will give you a lot of emotions, you're like, okay, so that's how you can do it best. That's how it's best received. And then you learn how it's also, you have to be, like, at least for me, you have to be willing to listen to what the best are saying. So listening to some Devious One interview, him hearing that he's saying that it will take you decades to try some stuff, to play some crowd, and decades to just know what you like to play and to hear, and then keep refining your craft. Yes, nothing is doing it better than just making it happen. It's the same for producing. If every time you have a music that is getting out, even if we don't spend as much time as before enjoying it, every time you connect with the reality, with the outside world, it's not staying in you, you learn a lot. And so for that, it's more like now I try to separate the thinking. I'm just doing my studies, my homework at home. So when it's time to do the thing, I can activate a different part of my brain. So the thinking will be more like a primal, more animal. I used to be very stressed and do very almost like choreographed sets. You have a playlist, you're just going to play the playlist. Now it's much different. Now I have a folder with 10, 15 playlists with different moods, with different intensity. It's organized, but not too much, because I have like maybe 4,000 tracks in my folder. It's like you can never have the perfect organization. So you just have to make it fluid enough so that it works for you in the moment. That's what was crazy for me. Like the gig at Renate, the gig in Lazard, I was in control. I prepared myself and then I could adapt and enjoy it. And it's also about realizing that you enjoying what you provide, being your first fan, which can be very hard sometimes.
Very hard.
And again, you don't sleep on that. It's not because I can say, okay, I can like my stuff now. I will have to constantly evolve, so I keep liking my stuff.
Yeah. It keeps it interesting and exciting, especially if you, as you said before, you're driven a lot by curiosity, and then that is like always acting or finding new things is also fulfilling your curiosity, your need for, like, as a curious person, to add more things and new things. And there was another thing that I think big part of, so definitely you're focusing a lot on production, you're getting better every day with every track. You're also sending music out, you're also working a lot with Bandcamp. And another thing that I notice about you when you send promos very often is a Bandcamp code, which allows you to, allows people to then go into your Bandcamp, they see the rest of the music that you're making. What has been successful for you in that sense, in sending music out to labels, to DJs and Bandcamp, for example?
We could cover a lot of topics on that. I think it's important to understand the process from making the music until it reaches out the audience. And I think the paradigm has shifted, although in the sense of maybe 10, 15 years ago, you would sign on legendary labels and it would give you a career. I think nowadays it's less and less the case. It's still something as producers that is very important, because you want to associate with your dream labels and you still want to go on that quest. For me, after a couple of years understanding the scene, and being like a children of the internet, and I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. I could still release more, get in touch, collaborate with a lot of incredible labels, and I still have a lot to do. But at the same time, it was important for me to, although be in control of my art and the promotion of it and the way it would reach its audiences. We live in a very complicated world, and even if hypnotic techno and mental techno, whatever you call it, is becoming more trendy, more mainstream, the underground is still niche. And for me, what that means is you want to explore a lot of different ways to share it, to distribute it, to promote it, to try to make music, to make money with it, if that's your thing. And after having done all the releases with other labels, I found that at some point I was gonna try to create my own structure. The Home of Sound masterclass was also a pivoting point for me, because it made me realize that I was good enough to teach to other people. The coaching with other people also built me a lot. And now I think it's a bit difficult, because if you niche, like in the kind of music that we do, and you realize you're not making a lot of money of that, and if you're not having gigs, it's very hard to make it sustainable for you. So I think it was also just ways of exploring the varieties of activities that you could connect with the scene and the music. So teaching, distributing it yourself, to maybe create meaningful interaction with some of your fans, which sometimes you can do when you release on labels, because they already have fans and they love the labels. You're just one release among many. And with the Bandcamp and the streaming and all those big questions nowadays, I don't find it to be the ultimate answer. I'm keeping it. I'm trying to explore more. Is what I want to say.
Yeah. So you mentioned two things very important. One is the direct connection with fans, because then the second one is the I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I think the independence, having new streams of income that are more in your control. I mean, the teaching is definitely one, and then having Bandcamp that allows you to have more direct control. Like whatever sales you make, they come directly to you. It's very important. And do you think, from a visibility perspective, how has Bandcamp helped you getting more visibility with your crowd or with other DJs?
That's an excellent question. I think it didn't add that much, because nowadays Spotify is vastly criticized for a lot of political reasons, and I would love to live in a world where Spotify would behave very differently. So Bandcamp, I think it's one of the best way to make sure the artist will get the money for the tracks, but in a greater perspective, it's still small. It's not substantial in the sense of the internet, the revolution of music, the streaming services. Everything has been made so everything the worth of music is very low, as pieces of music. Everything is just expecting music to be free, basically. And every industry is streaming and stuff that try to push that. They try to keep the profit for them, and they try to just please the customers. I think the artists are not the priority in the equation. It's also because just the consumption of music is very difficult. And for me, I know that if people support my music and buy my music, it's mostly DJs, and it's a certain part of DJs that can allow themselves to support the art by paying for it, the good quality of the audio file and that stuff. So it's a lot of that's why I'm saying I'm exploring all the possibilities. It's just because it's very difficult. Again, the gap between the money you will make when you get the gigs versus the money you can make when you just share your music is it's super imbalanced. And so it's just trying to find some answers to that. Even Spotify, if I could, I would rather boycott Spotify than having my music on it, because I'm very against contributing to those type of companies making profits, because you see what they make with their profits. But almost 40% of the total audience from streaming industries are on Spotify. And from a personal experience, I have a lot of friends that will not make the effort to go on SoundCloud to listen to my music. It has to be available on their favorite hubs. And we live in that world where the biggest hubs have won because they have like the market. It's a weird way to say it, but
concentration, yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And especially for small and upcoming artists, the visibility, I think the gains from visibility on the mainstream platforms outweigh the power of boycott. But it's still a very sensitive topic, and it can make we can have like evolution about that. So yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. Spotify is a big topic also for us as a team in Almost Sound. I think some of us already decided we should cancel the subscription as Almost Sound, but again, we don't rely so much on that. We still distribute the podcasts on Spotify because, as you say, the audience, when you look at stats, I think is super high. Like they have 74% of the market for music. Let's say it's less. Like say, anyways, they have 2/3 of the streaming market, and for podcasts, I think it's just after YouTube. It's the second biggest platform for podcasts. So, in me as a consumer music and as a producer, like as a consumer, and I have to find anything that is as close, as good as Spotify for recommendations. And I can say, fuck that. I don't need that. I still can discover music on Tidal, Deezer. YouTube for me doesn't work. SoundCloud doesn't work. Bandcamp, there's no discovery. You need to know where you go. As a producer of music, most of my listens are Spotify. Like, doesn't even compare to anything else in terms of streaming. And no friends who is not a DJ would go to Bandcamp. You can't listen to music on Bandcamp on your mobile. It's impossible. So it's a very hard choice that I'm trying to think like how to make. Is like, what is the alternative that is the next best, that is still sustainable? It's very hard, especially, and I think, unfortunately, to be truthful, the big artists who already have a sizable audience, whose gigs are not dependent, or visibility is not dependent on the streams, of course, it's hard for them too, but they can say no. They can say, fuck Spotify, I boycott it. And I think it's important that they do it because that has a weight, and hopefully that shifts the audience to another platform so then the other people can actually transition. But for small artists who have very little listens and audiences, shifting from Spotify is it's close to impossible to do because your audience is there. Like you send music to your friends, like in another side of the planet, it's like you send them a Bandcamp link, they're like, what is this? It's impossible. It's a very hard thing to face that we are going through in this time and age, I think. And I mean, there's so many other questions that we can go through, but I think I wanted to ask you one last question about clubbing, and then we can go into the last part of the interview with the rapid fire questions. I think the first time we met in person was at Else, and we're both having a alcohol-free beer, and they give us a beer with alcohol, and we speak about being sober in clubs, and it's something that I think is becoming more and more common and useful, like and people do that in Berlin too, but it's not the norm. You have been mostly sober, like I think sober for most of the time since we met. What has been your experience of being sober in clubs in Berlin or outside, and why do you do that? What makes you feel? Why do you think it's a good thing for you?
I'm gonna focus more like what it's made for me as an artist. Mm-hmm. Sobriety helped me maybe to be very honest with my music, and I think in Berlin, it's if you love techno, I don't think it's hard to enjoy your night, even if you stay fully sober. In the sense of if you go to the good club and you hang out with the right people, the music will make you high. I'm not kidding about that. It can sound cheesy, but
it's very true.
Yeah, it's very spiritual. It's very shamanic. It's really, you have to connect to it. Maybe you have to try harder. It's like with people being very knowledgeable about like meditation, yoga, this type of stuff. It will force you to be honest with your feelings. I think I'm not preaching for people to be sober at all. Actually, I've never said to myself, I'm going to be sober the rest of my life. But it's true that I've been sober most of the time since the past few years, almost you could say fully sober. But it was very personal to me. It was just a way to reconnect with a lot of part of myself, and be honest about how I handle my emotions and what do I like to do, how I connect to people. And that's also maybe why I'm very picky on the music that I will listen to. I'm very hard on myself when I'm making the music, because it has to serve a certain purpose. And I think substances is a topic we could have a whole podcast on. And I think every substance is different, and it just depends. I think everything, I'm not talking even about drugs or alcohol, even coffee, anything. If you use it in the way of expanding yourself, of learning more about yourself, of connecting more with your surroundings, of being more honest with you, I'm all up for it. I think it's a wonderful thing. But in our modern societies, which can be very complicated on the heart sometimes, substances will be a way to escape yourself and escape your surroundings. And so you go to places, you hang out with certain people, but they're not here, you're not here. And this is what I try to avoid. And I want to be in the now. I want to be present. I want to enjoy my experience and take all the experiences, even the sad ones, the negative ones, because it's part of the human experience. And maybe some people, they will struggle with controlling their use. Maybe if I'm part of those persons, and it made it more easy for me to just say no for certain occasions. And I've heard about the term soft clubbing recently by Zippo, I think. Yeah. And I think it's very important to separate a lot of layers, because soft clubbing is basically having fun in like a coffee shop that looks a lot like Starbucks, listening to shitty music and trying to make it party. It has nothing to do with like club experience. It has nothing to do with the music we love, because the crowd is different, the appreciation is different. I think it's super important to remind yourself the type of community you're part of and try to make it better. It's also being more, because again, it's not so much about what you take, how much you take, if you take, it's more about what are you adding to the party? What are you adding? And for me, I know when I'm an artist, when I'm a producer, when I'm a dancer, I'm just trying to do my best. Be honest with my emotions, with the music that I will provide. I will be aware of my surroundings. I will have a good time. I will dance how I want to dance. I will not try to be an inconvenience to the people around me. I think and especially when you perform, for me, if I'm getting booked to make a gig, it's my professional activity. So of course, going there and being fully in control of what I'm going to give, I'm going to be the medium of the experience for the people for like a specific duration for a night. I respect it greatly, and even if sometimes it's frightening and sometimes you feel like you just want to hide, you don't want to do it.
You want to stay with your emotions.
You want to take it all, and that's also something that I've learned with the experiences of acting as the DJ. Is like when you feel it, people will feel it. So it's not. I'm not a big fan of being on stage. I rather to be at the same level of the people. I love it when it's dark. Like everything Divius One said, basically, I love it when it's dark, when you have a lot of smoke, when you have very minimalistic lights, because the music for me is an introspective journey. You will go inside yourself, inside your mind, but it's still a collective experience. And I think that's the best, that's the thing I'm looking for, and that's the thing I want to provide to people. And being clean with my sensitivities and my abilities to feel emotions before giving them back I'm not perfect. It doesn't mean I'm never going to make mistake, but there is some, like, my soul is intact, and it will be ready to connect with other souls.
Yes. 200% agree. And I think it's very important that what you said before is that if you feel more intensely, the highs, the lows, and then you have a better shot at people also feeling something that might be very different, but you're communicating more, but also your experience is like more. I keep saying this thing to my friends, it's like you're in high definition. It's like you go from HD to 4K, you have much greater perception and neat perception of everything that is going on, like from what you play, how you absorb music, how you absorb energy of other people. You're there, you're present, you're not trying to escape, you're not in two places with your mind. I think it comes across a lot with the music. And so it's great to see that also like you take it super professionally, you're focused on delivering the music, the art, the message, respecting the environment and people who come in to see you play. It's a wonderful journey also and inspiring for many others. Yeah. And going toward the last part of the interview, rapid fire questions, so whatever comes to mind, shoot it off. In what part of your personality is a blessing and what is a curse?
We finished the last question on sensitivity. I think sensitivity for sure. I think a lot of artists, a lot of DJs and producers who are very hypersensitive. And when we feel pleasure, when we feel excitement, it's incredible. Like it's even hard to put that feeling in words. But if you feel sad, if you feel misunderstood, if you feel frustrated, that's also the lows and high.
Yes.
So I would say being a sensitive person.
Mm-hmm. And let's say you're holding a hypothetical flag on top of you. It comes everywhere you go, so everybody see it. It's the first thing they see when they see you. What does the flag say?
I'm gonna quote the Beatles on that. I think probably the flag will say, "All you need is love," which is a very cheesy thing to say, but I think eventually everything comes from that. You need to make your best to learn how to give and receive love. Yes. In many ways. Loving a track, loving a person, loving a flower. Like, again, you can put a lot of stuff behind that word.
Beautiful. And music-related questions. If you were to pick one closing track for the rest of your life, what would that be and why?
It's very hard for that. I don't know.
All you need is love.
Yeah, I'm very bad with track names as well, because like we dig and we have like so many tracks now that it's really hard. Even trying to remember the last closing is very difficult. I think I'm not gonna name a track on this one. It's more like it would have to contrast the journey. It's always very like a closing track is the way you start a set and the way you close it are very important. Maybe more like an emotional track. Like I think, I don't remember the track name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
it's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass this one.
For thinking about it. Can you sing aloud one of your latest tracks?
No. I'm very sorry, but I can't. I can inflict that to the audience.
Thank you for respecting me. And you mentioned before that you love being at the same level of height when you're playing. So the crowd is kind of in front of you. You feel connected. Do you enjoy playing in front of a very large crowd, or rather be in a house party with 20 friends?
I think more like in the middle, in the sense of when you are in a house party with friends, it can be very special. I've done a few of those. It's nice, but it's although you don't feel the same expectations, I would say. Mm-hmm. And then when you play like a large crowd, I wouldn't know. I think the biggest gig I got was close to like 1,000 person, and that was already impressive, and that was like in a concert venue. Mm-hmm. What I like more in the middle is like I would love more the sense of proximity with the people, because again I'm a strong believer in energies, and I think you can feel that. And now it doesn't really matter if like it's 20 people on like a kind of like empty dance floor, or like a packed floor, as long as you see the people that are honest in the sense of like they're dancing to your stuff and they will just welcome it, I will focus on that. And sometimes you can be lucky and the full crowd will be kind of like that. Sometimes it's just a few people and some people will not get it, which is okay, again, because you can't please everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's an interesting way of thinking about it. And by the way, I think 1,000 people, it's a big crowd. I mean, it's not a 10,000 people festival, but it is a big crowd.
No, it is,
especially from the, because it's hard to connect with 1,000 people. It's practically impossible. Yeah. And if you were to get stuck on a deserted island with someone who can be an artist, dead or alive, not necessarily a musician, who would you choose and why?
I still have like a lot of heroes in the sense of people that are inspiring me because of their music and also because of their labels, their structures. I've been loving what Rødhåd is doing with like collaborating regularly with upcoming artists and very good artists also. And the Home of Sound Masterclass was one of the first that I bought and I watched. And I don't know him, we never talked. I love his music. I think I never got a feedback from him yet. So still one quest to try to pursue. But I think hanging out with him a week on the desert island would be both incredibly fulfilling from the music perspective, and he also seems to be like a super chill guy. So I would go with Rødhåd.
Yeah, fully. He's a super chill guy. Super nice. Yeah, I think you will like each other. And anything you are particularly excited about for your next future? Whether it's gigs, releases, any plans?
Because of financial reasons, I'm slowly going back to work more traditional job. So I'm having less and less time with music making, music promoting, everything. But I very much feel at peace with that because this transition comes also at a good time in the sense of it will help me be independent and have my freedom in terms of what type of music I want to push. And I've also planted a lot of different seeds in terms of like creating new project. Like I have a premiere platform, which is also a label with a friend that is called Varia. I'm planning on opening my own labels that will focus more on like abstract music and like la crème de la crème of what I want to play nowadays. And although I find special pleasure in making connection and digging artists that are like unknown or like small. So I'm excited about working on projects bigger than my artistic project, but still with the possibility of my project getting bigger, having more opportunities. I'm happy that I've worked so hard for the past 2-3 years on making the music and releasing the music, and that will not go away. Like it feels solid. Like we didn't have the time to talk about like what is a good pace of releasing music and how you're supposed to work on your branding, social medias, marketing. Because I think actively deciding on how you want to connect with the audience and show what you're about with your fan and how you're gonna highlight your music is also very important and can be very complicated sometimes. But I'm happy that now everything is in places and I can do the same amount of work that I used to do in like half the time or even less than that. I'm much more organized about how I want to, even like working, like being active as a DJ, digging the music, playing the music, blah, 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 making the podcast, etc. versus being a producer. I used to be a producer and a DJ like 16 times the same day, going from one to the other, especially digging music, listening to a super cool track, opening Ableton for like half an hour, and then being a big mess sometimes and feeling very frustrated about that. And now it's more like, I think it was Rene Wise that said that in an interview, that some months, even like several months, you can be mostly a DJ, and then for a different period of time, solely like a producer. This I'm very excited about, knowing how I'm functioning and doing what I do.
Very important, because what changed when you allow yourself to be a DJ for a month and then go full producer mode for like 2 months? What does that help you with?
you're less challenged with the frustration, and you will be better about what you do. Because, and it's about enjoying it more. It's about trying to get away from the performative aspect of what is expected from you, being constantly ready to give an output. At the moment, I'm not really suffering from that because I'm releasing like crazy. I have a lot of projects on the ways, a lot of projects that have been out recently, but I'm seeing that from a lot of colleagues from the scene. I have to be out, I have to make something to show for it. And when you separate being a DJ, being a producer, or even in your personal life, focusing on other areas and be present for those stuff, you will enjoy it more. Because it can be very easy to be overwhelmed by that and forget why it's actually nice.
Yes.
Even when I don't know if you ever had the feeling of like you're just preparing your next performance at KitKat, for example, and then you're just scrolling through a lot of promos. You don't really have time to listen to thousands of tracks until you skip some bits and you're like, yeah, okay, cool. But sometimes it's important for me to remind myself, actually just hit play. This track is cool. Listen to it. Just enjoy. And not calculate and think too much. Just allow yourself to just take the music.
Giving yourself the time to go deep into this stuff for your enjoyment, first of all, I think has a massive impact on the sense of happiness that we have. And I struggle with it a lot, like in terms of thinking, like everything feels so time boxed sometimes that I'm doing something, then I'm present, but then a part of me is already thinking about the next thing, right? So it's beautiful to know that you manage to also be more at peace with yourself. And then when you're producing, you have stretches of time where you dedicate your full energy and attention to that without the pressure, oh no, I need to prepare for another 7 gigs and stuff. So you can batch. Yeah. Is there too many releases for you? Like, is there a limit? For example, you said you're releasing a lot. Do you limit yourself on the number of releases you plan for the next 12 months? Or it really depends?
Again, because I was like I was not knowledgeable about the way of doing things. I just said yes to a lot of different projects because the music was I think the most important part is not release the music for the sake of releasing. For me, there's tracks that I've released that I'm more happy than others, but there's not one track that is out because I needed to get something out. Everything was like pushed and ready. So that is very, very important. And then it's not ideal when you have to promote different projects at the same time, when you have like a lot of overlapping. But then again, sometimes it's not so much your fault. Maybe sometimes it's a discussion you need to have with the label bosses, with the strategy that was in place. Sometimes there's a strategy in terms of social medias, premieres and stuff. Sometimes no, it's really DIY. And again, because I'm a man of my word, I hope. I've committed to labels a year ago, 2 years ago, and now I'm coming to an end of that. My next EP will be on Quiche with super exciting remixes. The label boss is Krenz. We have a nice relationship. It's been very professional to me. And the next one is going to be a Vault Sessions EP with my friend Kat Robinson. Same. This one has been in the bank since like a year ago. So it's also a lot of producers. I think they can be also very frustrated with having to wait until the music is out. I think it was Oscar Mulero that said that it was I think in an Instagram post, and he said every time he's working to leave less music on his laptop, it's important for him to get the music out. I think you shouldn't leave, like, of course we have like some marketing aspects and communication aspects in terms of talking about and promoting about the music, but I mean, music is for everyone. It's like something that I think is very like it's connecting people. It's not supposed to be overthought so much, and I will try to slow it down, but only to avoid the overlapping, and also because I want to favor more vinyl releases that are planned also for beginning of next year. I can't say more about that because it's still like in the making, but it's nice to feel right about the way of releasing it, but not limiting yourself too much. I'm seeing a lot of people, I love them, I love what they do, but they're like maybe a bit too harsh with, okay, maybe 3 projects a year, or maybe not
a specific amount.
Yeah. I don't think there's, maybe one of the things that I've learned the most while connecting to the budding crowd and the artist here is also there's not one way of doing things. A lot of people, super successful people, will give you advice that used to work 10 years ago, maybe, but maybe now it's a bit different. Not everybody has the same path. We don't come from the same background. We don't have the same situation. And I think it's nice to be able to be open-minded, to receive the critique and the feedbacks and the advice, but listen to your gut and listen to eventually what will make you feel have no regrets or the least regrets possible, and be okay with yourself.
Yes, for sure. It's a very unique, like we live in different times and space, so it makes sense. And final question, closing tradition. What question should we ask the next guest?
What keeps making sense in the scene today?
Okay. And there's a question for you, which is, if you were not an artist, in this case a producer and DJ, who would you be? I mean, what profession would you do?
Maybe I would be a teacher, because again, the masterclass with Arm of Sound helped me tremendously. That was an excellent challenge. I've been coaching a lot of people since, and you like helping someone to get confident with their sound, to be able to create, to be able to express themselves. A lot of people can be facing the challenge to, again, having to be ready just enough to be able to make an output. But when you connect with students and they feel the same way you feel about the thing as a craft, and you lean into that, and it's just beautiful, it's just incredible. And you keep learning, like you're the teacher, but you will always be the student. And I think I will go with that.
For that, beautiful. I'm glad to hear that, like, it's somehow the HoS Sound production masterclass like helped in that. Really happy for you as well. Alex, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for being here. I've got a lot from this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.